Leadership's just influence. In fact, I say it's really nothing more or it's nothing less. You show me a person that influences others, and I'll show you a person that leads them. So many people think leadership's title or position, and you may be a leader that has a title or position, but many people who have great influence really don't have that. But I just learned very early that if I could teach a person how to increase their influence, then I would help that person become a better leader. Well, I think, first of all, it's valuing people. The moment that you understand that the people that you have around you, they're either your number one asset or, to be honest with you, they could be your number one liability. But the moment that you understand that and begin to value people, I think that is what creates the connection. Because the moment that, I think we all know, don't you, Tom, don't you think you know when a person values you and when a person doesn't value you? And so I think that giving value to people and expressing that to them is the common ground that builds relationships. And so, when I came in the studio, I wanted to meet everybody because you've got an incredible, successful program, and I want to meet the people who help you be who you are. In 1974, I came to the conclusion that everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, the reason I did that is because I started off as a pastor, and by the time I was 28, I had the 10th largest church in America.
Whoa.
And so people would come to me and say, well, how did you do this? And I came to the conclusion that I learned leadership. I was a good leader. And the day that I became convinced that everything rises and falls on leadership is the day I said, that's what I'm going to give my life to. Because think about it. If that is true, that in the business world, in the education world, in the government world, in every world, if you can just help people lead better, you're going to help them be more successful. And when I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, that first law, the law of the lid, which basically says how well you lead determines how well you succeed, I truly believe that. And so what better thing can I do than to help people increase their influence, learn how to lead better, so that they could be more successful in whatever area of life they really want to be successful in. I think there are people who would be born with what I would call leadership leanings. They would have a tendency to lean or be gifted in that area, just like somebody's gifted in music or whatever. So I think that starts it, and I think I have that. But then I grew up in a leader's home. In fact, my father is 98, still living.
Whoa.
And in fact, until 2 years ago, was still working full time and was a terrific leader. So I grew up in a culture and environment of leadership. And so when I look at myself where I am today, so much of it was caught from not only my father, but I've had great mentors throughout my life. In fact, while we're out here in Los Angeles, every time I come out here, I think of John Wooden, who mentored me for the last probably 11 years of his life.
Whoa.
And in fact, when you talked about this, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. He did the forward on that, and he just loved the idea of how to get back up after you fail. So when you look at my home background, the leadership experiences that I had, because a person learns to lead by practicing leadership. And at a very early age, I was practicing leadership. And so it all comes together. And then when I began to realize everything rises and falls on leadership, I became really intentional, Tom, of developing my leadership skills. So I can remember, for example, I was probably, maybe 26. I heard Earl Nightingale say on a tape that if you would spend 1 hour a day, every day, on one subject for 5 years, you could become an expert on that subject. So I said, wow, I want to become an expert in leadership. So for the next 5 years, I spent an hour every day reading about leadership, talking to leaders, asking leaders questions, practicing leadership, but it really was consistent. And when I started that process, I was thinking 5 years. Earl Nightingale said I could become an expert in 5 years. Okay, wow, leadership expert, hello. And so I kept, I was kind of like doing countdown, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. I'm thinking I'm Cape Canaveral, okay. But something happened to me about halfway through that 5-year process. Instead of keeping asking myself, how long will it take? How long will it take? How long will it take? One day I began to realize how I was growing as a leader and the change that was happening within me. And I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? And I started asking the question, how far can I go?